this is Sarah here.
And I'm Autumn.
And we're going to show you a few of the items that we brought on our trip to wear. So the most important thing that you're going to bring on any bike tour, or wear on any bike tour, hopefully, is your helmet. This is the helmet that I wore on our trip, and I made sure to pick out something that was bright in color, and then I increased my visibility by adding reflective strips all over my helmet. It was a really fun project, and I think it looks really great. And if we could change anything about our helmets, it would be, we would really love it if they had mesh in between the holes. There were a few moments out on the road where we were riding along and having a great time, and then something would fly into our helmet, and you immediately knew, because either one of us would veer off the road and rip our helmet off, and you'd see us rifling through our hair. So if you could find a helmet with mesh to ensure that bugs don't get in, that would be amazing. Yeah. But if not, we usually just wore a buff up over our hair and then put our helmet on, and it kept our hair really clean and made us feel like there weren't bugs getting in there.
Yeah.
Because where were we? Minnesota area?
Minnesota was really bad for bugs.
We had horseflies circling our head, and if they found their way in, it was game over. Yeah. So especially for Autumn.
I really don't like bugs.
I grew up in an area where if I went for a run outside in the afternoon, I was guaranteed to have horseflies circling around my head. But up here in the Keweenaw area, it's not as bad as it is in Minnesota, and I think it really surprised Autumn how many horseflies we had chasing us down the road.
They're fast little buggers.
Yeah, so anyways.
Okay, the next thing we have is sunglasses. Sunglasses are very important because you don't want dirt and bugs and shrapnel from cars getting in your eyes. Mom and I both had a pair like this. We had 3 pairs of lenses to go with them. We had this yellow pair, a clear pair, and then this dark sunglass pair.
Yeah, and that was really important to have different lenses for different riding conditions. If it was raining and dreary, we usually wore our yellow lenses. If it was getting really dark out, we switched to the clear ones. And of course, on sunny days, we had our sunglasses on. It also was nice to know that if one of the sets of lenses got damaged, we had a backup pair. Yeah. And I think those sunglasses with the case and everything cost $15.
Yeah.
So you can get a nice pair of glasses for a fairly reasonable price.
The case is also important because you don't want to squash your sunglasses when you're not wearing
them.
Then we had this mirror, and it attaches right into our glasses like this, snaps right on. And this is also important to have because it allowed us to see behind us and see the cars that were coming. And we actually didn't have this until halfway through our trip. Yeah. And now we feel blind when we ride without it. So
yeah, without our mirror, we used to ride single file because it's rude to ride, way out in the middle of the road and kind of block traffic, and so we couldn't have amazing conversations or really share things together. Now with a mirror, we can see traffic coming from a mile away, and we can ride side by side and chat and still get back into single file if cars are coming. So that is really, really nice to have. It just kind of puts us in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And I would not ride without a mirror, especially on a tour anymore. So Autumn had an Ortlieb bag to carry her clothing, and I carried my clothing in this transit bag. I'm just going to show you one little difference with the transit bag that I really like. And a new bag, transit bag would cost you about $80. And it's right here. The way that it attaches to the rack, you have to push down on these 2 levers, and it makes this lovely noise. And I like that. It's a big difference from the Ortliebs, which don't make a noise, because it reminds me that I have locked my bag onto the rack and that it is definitely secure. We did have an incident at the very beginning of our tour where Autumn had attached her front bags.
I thought they had attached.
But forgot to check them, which is really, really important to make sure all of your gear is secure on your bike before you take off. And we were flying down a hill, and all of a sudden I heard like a skipping stone, and it was Autumn's Ortlieb pannier. It had come off her bike and was just rocketing down the road.
Yeah, flew off my bike.
It was pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
It got scratched up a bit, and we were really lucky that it didn't cause an accident.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I like about the transit bag, and the other thing I like is that it has a flap. So most panniers roll down to be waterproof, but this one rolls down and on top of it has a flap that secures. And the reason I like the flap is because I always kept my windbreak underneath it for quick access. So if you want to open this up, Autumn, I think your windbreak's in there. I got my windbreak for $5 at a thrift store. It is the cheapest little windbreak jacket. It's like a dance skin now that you can get at Walmart. And I boosted it a little bit by adding reflective strips to the front and back. And they have stuff remarkably. Autumn did the same to hers.
Yep.
And we've washed these numerous times. We wore these jackets about 50% of our trip, and the reflective strips have held strong. So we took a $5 jacket and turned it into a jacket that would cost you about $150 online if you wanted to buy it new.
Yep.
And windbreaks are just so important for your comfort. They are good on hot days and on cold days. We really wore ours all
We
the
use
time.
them all the time, yeah.
They're also extremely packable. If you scrunch it down and roll it, it takes up very little space and it's lightweight.
I actually was able to keep mine in my little frame bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do not go on a bike tour without a windbreak. Okay? And the next thing are bike shorts. So we did the wash one, wear one method. You're going to want to get a couple pairs of bike shorts with a chamois inside, which is basically just a padded region where your sit bones go. And so if we were wearing a pair of bike shorts, we always had a clean pair ready to go. And we followed that method for shirts, socks, underwear, sports bras, and
Pretty much every clothing item we had
Yeah.
doubles.
double. So wash one, wear one method, really great. Except for our jackets,
Yeah.
our warm weather clothing, which we only had one of. So go ahead and you pull the next thing out.
So the next thing, we always had a little towel. This one's really light and small, but we could probably have gotten away with smaller. But this one worked well for us, and it's a good thing to have.
It basically was the material of a chamois, just a little bit larger. A lot of people would have just brought a tiny little chamois. But it is nice to have something slightly larger
So you can wrap it
if
around
it's
you.
freezing cold out and you're getting out of a shower. Okay, I'll pull the next thing out, which is a hat. A winter hat that would fit under our helmet comfortably. There were some really cold mornings, some really cold mountain descents, and it was really nice to have something warm on our heads.
Alright, I got the next thing. This is a dry fit t-shirt. We both brought one of these, and we tried to find high visibility ones, so I had an orange one, Mom had this yellow one. And we wore these not as often as some of our other shirts because
Yeah.
they're short sleeve and we had to put on suntan lotion then, but we did wear them.
Yeah, so instead of wearing those as much as we thought we would, we wound up wearing, we both had these. This is an Under Armour heat gear shirt. It's kind of hard to see. They got really stretched out and dirty and worn out.
It's long sleeved if you can't see that.
Primarily because Autumn and I wore these almost every day.
Yeah.
So they had a hood, yep, they're long sleeved, and they feel like a dry fit material, but when we got them wet, they had the capability of really cooling down our skin. Plus they had UV protection, I think it was UV 50.
Something like that, yeah.
And it prevented us from having to coat ourselves in suntan lotion. If we could do another bike tour, not only would we wear long sleeved white shirts, but I would also get a pair of leg sleeves that I could add to my kit. So I still was adding suntan lotion to my legs, and we would get done after a 100-mile day and look down and there would be bugs stuck to us.
It's
And
so gross.
You would just feel really gross. So if I could have had a pair of white leg sleeves, I definitely would have ridden with those. Also, our faces. It was really hard at times to protect our faces from the sun, and there were a few rides that I remember going into like a gas station, and the lady kind of giving me a really crazy look, and later on I would go into a bathroom and look at myself in the mirror, and I would have bugs stuck
Yeah.
all over my face.
You just don't realize it until you see yourself.
A few times few incidences like that, and I started wearing a buff over my face to protect it from the sun.
And it actually helped cool us down if you got it wet. It worked a lot like the shirt.
Right, and a buff also helped us if there was smoke in the air from a forest fire. We definitely would not go on a bike trip without a buff. So if you can find clothing that helps protect you from the sun and keeps you cool, definitely invest in that over coating yourself in suntan lotion.
Yep. Alright, so I have the next thing. Mom and I both had 2 little stuff sacks, dry sacks inside our panniers. We actually don't have all our clothes inside them right now because we're showing you the stuff, but we would normally have dirty clothes in one and clean clothes in the other, and this is just one type of stuff sack. It's a Sea to Summit.
Yeah, it just helped us pull everything out of our bag quickly and not have to rifle through it or dump it all out. And I never really traveled with dirty clothes in my bag in a stuff sack. I think I had underwear, socks, sports bras in one stuff sack and then my riding gear in the other. And I tried not to carry dirty clothes with me anywhere.
I know I had a few days where I had dirty and
Yeah,
clean.
but if I had clothing items that had just been washed but they hadn't dried completely, I tried to keep them outside of my bags and airing out somewhere on my bike. Although if it was raining and I was trying to dry them, that didn't always work. And in that case, I put them inside of a stuff sack. But
You can switch around what you have inside of them.
right, but usually we had 2 stuff sacks in our clothing bag to keep everything organized.
Yep.
Is it my turn?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna pull out this reflective vest. Both of us rode with one of these, or at least had it available to ride with, and it was just really nice to add on top of our other clothing. It just increased our visibility that much more. It's really lightweight, and we could use it for other things too, like tying it to some gear if we needed to increase the visibility of our gear at all. So
Okay, I'll go next. We both had a pair of bike gloves like these. They have padding, and I actually wore long-fingered ones, but Mom had short-fingered ones, and I found that mine protected my hands more. She got some burnt hands. So
yeah, so when you're out on the road for miles and miles, you really, really have to think about your sun exposure. And I should have had gloves that completely covered the tops of my hands. Anywhere that wasn't covered tended to get a lot of sun exposure. I would probably invest in a pair of UV protective gloves if I could go on another bike tour.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do I look like my hands are any wrinklier
No.
than before? Okay, so socks. I wore sandals the whole trip. The only time I put socks on was at nighttime, especially if my feet felt a little grimy. I would put socks on to keep them from griming up my sleeping bag. Or if it was really, really cold out on a descent, I wore socks with sandals. Yes, I did. And we both had 2 pairs, but
I wore them more. I had tennis shoes on,
Yeah.
but near the end of the trip, I started not wearing them as much because it was more comfortable just to have my shoes on.
Yeah.
Without socks.
But 2 pairs of socks, one thin and one a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
And then you're up.
Grab these. We also had, Mom had these, and they're a pair of long gloves, but they don't have padding, so they aren't bike gloves, but they're warmer, and we use them down mountain passes.
If I could have had warmer gloves than that, I wish I would have. Our hands got cold. Out of all of the things that got cold on our trip, our hands probably got the coldest. So I would have brought a pair of winter gloves to ride with.
Yeah.
We had no idea what we were getting into as far as
Coming down the
temperature
mountain
drops
passes.
going down a mountain pass.
Yeah.
We were comfy and hot climbing, and we would get to the top and be a little chilly and go, uh-oh. And then on the way down, we'd get hypothermia. So, okay. So, that's just the second stuff sack that I had to organize my clothing. And we added reflective strips to a lot of our gear, and we did it in different patterns. So at nighttime, if we shined our flashlight on our gear, we could tell the difference between my
This one's
stuff
got a
sack
triangle,
and
and that one's
Autumn's.
got slimes or something.
It was
like that.
brilliant. It really helped at night or early in the morning. We could find our stuff a lot quicker. So
And the next we have a baseball cap. Ideally you want one that you can ride with under your helmet as well as just wear normally. And this one is the one Mom brought, and it's nice to have after your ride in case you want to put it on to go into a shop, or if you have greasy hair, which we sometimes had.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it's great for covering up helmet head, and you never know when you're gonna go into a shop and want to cover that hair. So bring a hat. Let's see. So we also rode with 2 pairs of long pants. I brought a pair that I kind of considered sleeping pants or pajama pants, but that I also felt comfortable riding in. So they're a little bit baggier. And then I had a long pair of tighter riding pants. And
I had similar, pretty much.
Yeah.
I had 2 tighter pairs, but
Yeah.
one I felt comfortable sleeping in.
And if we were really cold, we would put on both sets of long pants,
Yeah.
all of the long sleeved items that we had, which
There
happened
was
a couple
one
times
mountain pass at least.
where
I
we
can
wore
think of.
every piece of clothing item that we
Yeah.
had brought.
Now our bikes were in balance because we had everything on us.
Yeah.
So next we have this dress, and I carried a skirt actually, but this is Mom's dress, and we found them really helpful for changing and going into town or any other time you just wanted to wear something comfortable.
Yeah, so when you get done with a long ride and you're on a tour, one of the first things that you should do is remove all of the clothing that you were riding in. You do not want to do your chores and hang out in the shorts that you had just ridden in all day.
It's just icky feeling.
So out of all of the clothing items that we brought, a changing dress or skirt is probably the thing I would recommend highest on our list. You're going to roll into a park. You're going to be sticky and miserable. You're going to look around and see people everywhere. And
there's going to be nowhere to change.
Yes, but you can change with a changing dress.
Yeah.
And we call it pulling a Mr. Bean. And after we get done sharing this video with you, we're going to show you a video of Mr. Bean, and hopefully you'll be able to see why we call it that. It's just a very easy way of getting out of your gear and putting on something clean without flashing anyone. So bring a changing skirt, a changing dress. I would recommend it for both boys and girls. And I also went out in the evenings to restaurants in this or slept in it like pajamas. It just became invaluable to me.
Yep.
And it's my turn?
Yep.
Oh, geez. Oh, that's yours. You
Okay.
pull that out.
So, Mom didn't have one of these, but this is a raincoat.
Yeah, I wish I had one of those. We knew we needed raincoats before we left, but only
I
Autumn
was
found one.
lucky enough to find one in the basement of Downwind, actually. And this is my raincoat, and it was really great to have because it's warmer than my my windbreaker. So I would put it on if I was a bit cold, but I still wanted to wear a jacket, or if it was raining, of course. And I could also use it to cover gear if I needed it.
Yeah, and I just suffered and got wet.
Yep.
So you definitely want a raincoat when you go on a bike tour. It should be breathable. If you're exercising in a raincoat and it's not breathable, you're going to get really sweaty and miserable, and it's going to have the reverse effect that you want. Get a raincoat. Don't be like me and go on a bike tour without one.
Yep.
And I think we emptied our clothing bag. So if you can see in there, there are a few pockets at the bottom of this. They're kind of mesh pockets, and I used them to sort really tiny clothing items like underwear and socks.
Yep.
And it's important to maybe keep a little bit of extra room in your bag. You don't want your bag overflowing or difficult to close.
Definitely not.
Because you never know if you're going to pick up an extra item of clothing on the ride. You might need to purchase something a little bit warmer, and you're going to want to have a tiny bit of extra room in your pannier. And since you have only a tiny bit of clothing with you, it really isn't that hard to keep organized and to find what you're looking for in your bag. There were even times when we would get into our tent and just dump our bag, grab our item, stuff it all back in, and it's like cleaning your room in 2 seconds flat. So it was just really nice to have only a few items up with us on the road, and every single one of them was extremely important to us. All right, so that's clothing. Do you have anything to add?
That's all the clothing, yeah.
Yeah. Anything else that we wished we had brought with us or bought or?
You covered the leg sleeves.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I can think of.
There were a few times when we were riding and it was raining really hard, and we knew we could have bought rain covers for our helmets.
Oh, yeah.
Or we could have had rain pants. There were a few times we got cold and thought we could have more clothing on. But when you're on the road, there's always stores the entire way across the country. We had the ability to go in and find something if we really, really needed it.
Yeah, so
but
we
in the end,
weren't
we
too
wound up
worried.
sending more things home. What did you send home?
I sent home a whole bunch of stuff. I brought too much clothing in the beginning.
Yeah, you had way too much clothing.
And I had some carving knives in the beginning because I thought I would have time to carve. I didn't have time to carve.
Yeah, and I had brought a journal with me, thinking that I would write in it every evening, and I wish I had, but it wasn't a habit of mine before I left. So I guess that's the other thing we can add right now. You don't really have a lot of time at the end of your day, if you're pulling a lot of miles, to do hobbies. If you want to explore, if you want to get your chores done and then go out and explore the town that you've landed in for the evening, you're probably not going to have time to juggle or wood carve, or maybe even write in a journal. If that hobby isn't something that you practice every night at home right now, then you're probably not going to do it out on the road. So what I would say is, if you're thinking about bringing a hobby, make sure that it's something that is invaluable to you now. You definitely won't have time to learn or start a hobby when you're out on the road touring. There's just too many other things to get done and too many exciting things to explore. Had I wished that I hadn't sent my journal home and that I took the time to write in it every night? Yes. But I don't know if we had the time to.
I don't really think... We also did do a little Facebook post every night just to keep our friends and family updated. So that was it kind of turned into our journal.
Yeah, and other bikers that we ran into were blogging every night. But you run into other problems if you are committing to doing vlogging, blogging, even Facebook posting. That means you have to find internet, you have to have your devices charged at all times, and committing to something like that can cause you to not enjoy your evening as much as you would like.
Yeah.
So paper and pen might have been the way to go, and I guess I'll have to go on another tour and bring a journal so I can accomplish that next time. So anyways, we could talk and talk
Yep.
and talk your ear off, but that was supposed to be just clothing.
We went clothing in a little bit more, but...
Yeah, so I guess, Autumn, you want to go shut the
Yeah.
camera off?
We'll see you.
Yeah, we'll see you in a little bit. All right.